Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about One Piece chapter 1171, because while one of the best flashbacks in One Piece has finally ended, there's still a ton to talk about, like Loki apparently having ice powers in addition to lightning powers, which is kind of crazy. We also got to talk about Elbaf is of the D, as Emu says. I'm not sure what that means. We also learned that Emu has to pay a price for these covenants of some sort. So, of course, I brought in Parvision to help me break this all down. And Par, I'm really glad you're here because it's been a minute since we talked about some One Piece, about the flashback in particular. So why don't we just start with kind of your thoughts on kind of how the flashback ended in these last few chapters?
Yeah, okay. So the flashback ending and the flashback, I think, started good, ended good, middle was some interesting stuff, and then the God Valley steroid came in and it was like nuts. I think Oda ended up like tying Harold off as well as he could have, considering like Harold self-admitted a lot of the stuff that like people who are critical, not critical, it's a weird thing to say, but it's like being critical and not and liking the character, like they're not mutually exclusive. But I think Oda did a good job with that conversation he had with Loki. I think the setup for Ragnar was insane. That broke as far as I could see, that broke the internet for me. Like I straight up that day went in and I was like, okay, when are the top 30s happening? Because we need to put this squirrel up there.
Ragnar
and then
better
Sai
be in there.
told me, he told me that Braga was doing it 2 hours after my stream. And so I've been kind of like offline with like a lot of the stuff, but I hopped in and their top 30s were nuts. Like someone had, I think Brago had, man, what did he have? He had some crazy nonsense. He had, he had Odin at like 20 and Kizaru at 23. And I was like, what? Brago put Odin above Kizaru? Am I in the right? And then at that point, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to say my piece. If Ragnar's top 5 and Loki's top 5, then what does that mean when we actually put the story together where we can't, if we're doing the top 30, reasonably, it's Loki is wielding Ragnar. So Ragnar is a part of Loki. That just makes Loki number 1. And like, that was kind of the shocking thing about this flashback was, we could talk about so many different aspects, but I think that one of the most important things that, like I've talked about it with God Valley, Fraud Valley video, was that when Oda gives us God Valley, which he did, what comes with that is a perspective of the powers at play. And my God, did we get that through Rocks and Harold and the Holy Knights, or as I call them, the Holy Frauds, and God Valley did no justice to them.
No, the opposite.
To the point that my worst case scenario that I kept on saying, guys, I think that when this is before Scopper even touched Sommers, I was like, guys, I think Sommers washes all 3 of them unless like Oda's gonna have to make it that like he has Colin's gonna self-report or something. And then that's what happened. And starting at that moment, I was like, guys, it's not a good thing. I don't think it's going to be a good thing to have these Holy Knights at God Valley. And every one of them got one shot. And all it did, and like, hey, even if you, Garling off screen, okay, you look at Rocks afterwards, even Sai yesterday on stream was like, hey, but like, Rocks had 1 scratch on him, right? And I'm like, yeah, and you know what's crazy? He doesn't even have regen there. And that's what's so wild, is that like, for some reason, the world government's like here, and then the characters we're talking about are here, and like we keep on having expectations that like these characters at the world government are gonna meet us there.
Yeah.
And even in this chapter, it doesn't feel like that. And Loki, when we got to Elbaf, there was some nonsensical stories like this guy could 1v all of Elbaf and no one can stop him. And it's like, what does that mean? What are we talking about? And then like we're going through the story. Oh my God, Rox is the strongest guy. And what's crazy is that Harold, who's like not even trying to be strong, is equaling him. And then that guy says that Ragnar never, like he couldn't even, I don't even know if Harold knows that Ragnar is a squirrel. Like, I don't know if he took the raid boss to level 2. And so that guy got immortality, regen, and then some other BS through this covenant.
He got just like a raw power boost from Emu, right? I think as soon as he got the mark, he's like, oh, I can feel the power like surging through me, you know?
Durability, strength, regen, everything.
Conquers.
And then Loki, without anything, beats down Ragnar with his hammer. His hammer breaks. That tells you how strong Ragnar is. Yeah. And now Loki, with that hammer, one-shots Harold, one-shots. I'm just gonna say it's a one-shot because effectively that's what it felt like, okay? He went out of his whatever form, whatever thing he has, and just clobbered his dad.
It is a one-shot because if Harold can regen, and he was regenning, he goes back to 100%, so it kind of is, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
And then we got to this chapter where, like, that was my question I was like, bro, if I was Emu, how do you explain, like, getting the strongest Holy Knight in Harold and just, like, leaving them? I was like, it's kind of like falling asleep at a Tesla. Like, you're just like, why would you? But then this is worse because Emu straight up left, right? Because they didn't know that Shanks was there or Scopper or anything.
Yeah.
And then this chapter just makes the entire flashback the cherry on top. It's like, no, Loki is so Himothy that Emu treated Elbaf the way that Akainu treated Wano, which to this day makes no sense why he's like, yeah, don't go there, the samurai. Yeah. Emu straight up was like, what could have possibly killed him? And then when the Holy Knights are like, I'll go and figure it out. No, sit your ass back down. Yeah. You're not dying.
Yeah.
And then Emu, and then this is the main thing that I was questioning was like, okay, is Emu not strong enough to deal with it? Because if I, the all-powerful God, just created the all-powerful being and then it got deleted, and then you're like, how did that happen? I'm going there immediately and just ending it. Whatever, the entire island is gone. Like, I'm not even trying to mess with whatever that is. And Emu, there's no cope for it other than like, is it the measure, the tax, the
price that the Emu has to pay, right?
And it doesn't look like it's a physical thing, but that's the only thing that I can like cope with in my mind, that like Emu didn't go because they were so like in pain by the recoil that they couldn't even deal with it.
But what I was gonna say was, going back to the contracts, maybe there was 14 and then Harold lost, and now there's only 13. So Emu's like, please don't go back, because if another one dies, then I'm down another contract. Like, I can't just pop, I can't make more covenants. Like, I can only transfer them, like maybe like from Saturn to Garling or something like that.
That's an interesting.
But since Harold died, Emu might be like, hey, it's not worth the risk right now. I need to keep the 13. And so what that made me think is like, well, if there's 13 people now and we're like 800 years from the Void Century, could it maybe be that there was like once 20 contracts, and then every century maybe somebody, like some Chad, stood up who took out one of the people with the mark, and so now Emu's down to 13 because it's been like one every century, and now we're on the 8th century, so now I guess probably the rest of them will die now that Luffy's here and stuff. But maybe every century one has died, and that's why Emu's like, don't, like, we're not risking it. Like, it's a price to pay, because like, I can't redo this. It's like, you know, I have to pay it. Like, there's no reclaiming that contract once they're dead. So I don't know. Maybe that's it.
It's interesting, because then my next step in questioning, which is, again, the flashback was great. I love that we have the perspective now to put these characters where they need to be. Loki's in some insane spot that, like, I was joking about it on stream, but I was kind of like, at this point, the shonen trope of like, you know, like when you have the 5v5 and it's like, hey, like, go on, take on the last guy. At this point, Loki is so strong that it might end up being that like Luffy is in the like the Zoro spot, and Luffy's like, hey, Loki, you deal with the last guy. Like, that's how insane Loki is right now.
Well, that leads to a couple really good questions that I want to ask you. So first, well, I'll start here because this one's a quicker one, I think. So we've always heard 1v1. If it's a 1v1, bet on Kaido. But what if that 1v1's against Loki? Is it really 1v1? If it's 1v1, bet on Loki? Because that's how I'm feeling right now. Like, as long as Ragnar is there also.
Him.
If it's...
Because
it'd be a 2v1 sort of, but it's still a weapon. Like, you know, Kaido gets the combo.
Even without it. Because the reason why I say even without it is because Loki base was already stronger than Harold that we saw. And what he had said was, yo, dad, where are you getting the strength from? This ain't you. To be that strong, to know that like your dad who clashed with rocks and is an active king fighter guy who's insanely strong, to be like clashing with him and recognizing he's on steroids, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Loki is already insane.
Yeah, it's like
there's no...
It's like if you're like a kid who like played basketball against your dad, and like whenever you're growing up, you lost, and then finally got old enough to start winning. And then if your dad magically came back and was starting to beat you, it's like, where did you go to basketball camp? Like, you know, you picked up on it because like you're good enough to be able to tell like, wow, you're better than you were last time. What happened? So I think it does. I agree. Loki would. I don't want to say wash, but I feel like he would wash Kaido at this point. And I feel bad saying that because Kaido was so hype and ominous, but Loki has just reset the scale of strength, I feel like.
Yeah. It's like if LaMelo Ball's dad came back and started busting his ass.
It's like Bronny and LeBron, even though that's not a good example because Bronny will never surpass LeBron. But if he did, and then LeBron was able to come back and beat him again, it's like, well, what? You know, how's that happen?
Yeah, straight up. Like, Harold is no joke. Rocks, if you think otherwise, Rocks, then you're slandering Rocks. Rocks was like also an enigma, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, we go to Harold. Harold's duking it out. And then Loki comes up and he's dealing with him as if it's like, yeah, dad, I got stronger than you like 10 years ago now. Yeah. Like, what happened in the last few years that this happened? And so, like, when I'm looking at the Kaido thing, I've always been on this boat. Like, people put Kaido on a pedestal because of like that narrator box. And I said this in the Fraud Valley thing. There's so many questionable things about it. And the reality is that Kaido was on Wano for 20 years and the state of the world was like, nobody was really fighting. That was the point. Like, all the Yonkos were locked in where they were. There wasn't the same situation that Rocks had during the Rocks Pirates. Rocks was seeing Roger on the ocean apparently frequently to the point that they like banned each other from going to the Hakinosu. That's not happening with Kaido. Kaido didn't have that. Big Mom kind of did, but like not really, because like I guess like Katakuri was dealing with it, or like the Sweet Commanders were dealing with it.
Or Sparrow or somebody.
Whereas like Loki is like what they all should have been, because he actually aspires to be where Rocks was, and all of them should have been like that, and they've forsaken it. I think that's the difference, right? Like Loki stayed true to what his like childhood dream was. Kaido didn't. Big Mom didn't. None of them did. And so even when Kaido comes back, he's gonna be crying. He's gonna be crying when he sees Loki.
I agree. Like, I think it'd be kind of cool too, just to kind of set the scale if Kaido did come back and Loki just almost like Odin and Roger a little bit whenever they met, and Roger just like sliced him one time and Odin's like, I'm not messing with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool if they had the same moment, sort of, but just hammer and Kanabo instead of swords.
Even more disrespectfully, because the reality is it's actually important for that meetup to happen in the scope of Kaido's like arrogance, right? Like the same mentality people had to put Kaido on that pedestal, to the point where he said, hey, Rocks, why don't we just go to Elbaf and just dominate them? Well, sorry, Kaido, you can't. Loki's gonna kill you. I want that to happen. I want to be like, well, shit, I can't go to Elbaf.
It would be cool to see a conversation like, well, if we go there, we got to deal with Loki, and I'm not doing that. And so, you know, like that would be very cool. But this also leads me to a very important question, though, going back even to the beginning, that we were just everything about Loki's strength and how strong he seems to be in comparison to Harold. How did Shanks stop him? Like, how did Shanks beat him and capture him? Because even here in the flashback, we're seeing Shanks. Now, obviously, Shanks, you know, got older between then and whenever he beat Loki, and maybe there was like 8 years of training, because it was 14 that happened in 6 when he got captured. So maybe those 8 years, Shanks really powered up and stuff. But it feels weird because Shanks and Scopper were in there like, well, we can't stop Harold. Let's get Loki to do it. And then Loki came in and just, you know, mollywopped him. So it's like, how did Shanks come back later and stop Loki?
When it comes to the Shanks thing, at this point, the thing that I want to accept is, it'd be weird if Shanks, did he start taking steroids too? Like, because then it would kind of defeat the conversation of like the arm thing. Like, he loses the arm and gets weaker, because then the Shanks that beat that Loki has
one arm,
no mark in one arm,
yeah.
Yeah, and so like how is that Shanks definitely had to have gotten stronger from this moment, right? Like I don't think Shanks looks at Loki and says, I can take that. In this chapter, in reality, Scopper is laying down the glaze on not just like Loki per se. I don't even know what he's glazing. Like, because when he says, at least with TCB translated, he says, hey, did you know the sacred treasure would be that powerful? I was like, wait, is he talking about Loki's devil fruit, or is he talking about Ragnar? Because the Herald didn't tell Loki to get Ragnar. And the thing is, Jarl doesn't know about anything. Like, I don't know. So the context of what they're specifically referring to, I'm not too sure yet. But the reality is that's Scopper. Scopper is saying, yo, bro, that's just not fair. Like, I don't know. There's no way around it. Whatever Loki got, did you know that something this unfair exists? And Jarl's like, no, but it sends a shiver down my spine if Herald got it and Loki didn't get it. And so when you have something like that, and you have Shanks like there experiencing like his mentor, dad figure person glazing this guy. Yeah, I don't think it makes sense to think that Shanks 1v1 this guy and just got that much stronger with like no additional whatever. I think it's a team effort. I think like, I don't think Loki could survive like Yassop on a different island, sniping him from like different dimensions and Ben Beckman slapping him with a gun. Like, I don't think all of them combined would lose to Loki. But
well, let me give you a little pet theory that I was spitting in the reaction, because actually, shout out, I forgot to look up your name, I'm sorry, but somebody did a super thanks on my last video and had a good idea that kind of tied to this. It was separate, but it reminded me of kind of this situation. So what if whenever like Shanks fought Loki, Ragnar was like, I'm not gonna get involved, because if you look into the history in Norse mythology of Ratatoskr and the Nidhogg and the Eagles, they're like a trifecta, right? And so the Nidhogg's at the bottom, the Eagles are all the way at the top, and we don't really know a whole lot about the Eagles. Like, there's some speculation, but they're like less concrete. And then Ratatoskr goes up and down, and so Ragnar's obviously Ratatoskr, and he's like in the middle of these two. Like, he's kind of like provoking their arguments, but like I could also see Oda spin it to where like he's like friends with both of them. But either way, they're all tied to the same legend. They're all connected. And there's a lot of theories about Loki having the Nidhogg fruit or some kind of dragon fruit to tie it into that. And Shanks having the griffin sword thing, you know, it's like a eagle type, well, different kind of myth, but it's a bird, you know, that's all that's important here. And so maybe he's the eagle then, because if we already know Shanks and Loki fought, and if Nidhogg and the Eagles are supposed to be like opposing one another, maybe that's a stand-in for Shanks. And so that made me think, well, whenever they fought, what if Ragnar kind of recognized the situation and was like, hey, I'm actually friends with both of you? Like going with the Norse myth. I don't know what he's thinking with Shanks and, you know, Loki in particular. Like, maybe there's something far in the past from like the lore that he's like reminiscing of. Like, oh, I remember last time you two fought, like the eagle and the dragon, and that wasn't good that I got involved, so I'm not going to do it. So I could almost see Ragnar being like, I'm just going to sit this out. And so it was Loki without Ragnar versus Shanks with the sword, because like Loki would still have his fruit, so he's the dragon. Shanks would keep his sword, so he's the eagle. Then they fought, and since without Ragnar, that means that that Loki lost. But if he had Ragnar, maybe he would have won. And I think that's like it's a good way to tie back to the myth, but also like we're talking about, it's a good way to explain how Shanks was even able to do that. Like, if anybody else had shown up, Ragnar would have been like, well, I'm helping out Loki, I don't care. But because it was Shanks and he represents the eagle, there might be some reason where Ragnar's like, well, I like him too, so I don't want to hurt him, so you're going to have to figure it out. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's interesting. I like it. I think the main thing then, I feel like what's interesting is because he already has Griffin, right? Like, his sword is already that sword. But the one thing that we haven't bridged the gap between us and Film Red is that like Oda like it's canon that his sword like lights on fire.
Yes.
And we just don't know specifically what that means. It's not like to the Cerberus level that Shamrocks has, but we haven't seen Shanks use that yet. And so if this were to pan out, I like the you know, the version where it's like Loki is separate from like the Ratatoskr thing, and then in that light, like, so would Shanks. Like, Shanks and Loki could be depicting separate things, and like as an example, a lot of people earlier on, I think I mentioned in like the Godfather Shanks video, people looked at Tyr because he was the one-armed, red-haired like god in Norse mythology that I think he like one of the only people that like successively fought like Fenrir.
Yeah, he lost his arm to Fenrir, but it was because he was like, I think he was like being brave. Like he's like, I'll put my, like to show trust, like I'll put my arm in your mouth or whatever, because he was like a good guy, but then he bit it off. Something to that effect. But yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, it was like a ploy of some sort. And so he and I like that idea because when like even from the beginning, there's a few depictions of Loki that I liked. Like I like the bird, I like the dragon. But the Fenrir version I also like too, because one of the stories is that Fenrir had to be chained up because he was so strong. And so like Loki being associated with that, but then also having the wolves with him, very cool. But now if we're talking about like the Ratatoskr stuff, Ragnar is seemingly that. Yeah. And so if Shanks were to be the eagle thing, it might just be his sword somehow gets it.
Right.
Like maybe his sword alone is the eagle.
It has the fruit of the eagle, like Loki has the fruit of the dragon, maybe.
Yeah, and so then that would be, and then that would explain why like Shanks is so revered on Elbaf, the same way Loki would be had the truth been out and the knowledge that he has like the royal whatever. Now, I think the biggest question mark would be then, would Shanks have gotten it from the island or would he have found it elsewhere? And I think that elsewhere is probably the case because then it would make sense where it's like, oh, like he returned it. Like, that's why, you know, like, oh, we lost this or like, but then the issue is like Jarl doesn't know anything about Ragnar or the fruit. Like he doesn't seem to know any of this.
Jarl,
so then who does?
Jarl, he needs to know more, man. Like I feel like Jarl, like I don't know. He should know everything. About this. He's 400 years old. You know what I'm saying?
We talked about this too, like the disparity of like where the elders are at and Jarl. Yeah. I think that's my biggest problem with biggest problem is a huge escalation because they're so minimal. It's just that Oda introduced the elders and they actually were like Harold's dying, Ida's last things that she heard from Harold was that it was because of the elders that everything was ruined between them. And so it's like, that is a very pivotal role that we're giving them. And we're just like, where are they ever? Period. Now, later, do they have, like Loki just unilaterally chose everything despite like Jarl's like, yeah, it doesn't need to be that way. But if that's the way you want it, fine. Scopper's like, hey, this ain't my place. Sure. Where are the elders that kind of dictated the Herald's like reason for abandoning Elbaf culture? I couldn't marry you. Harold, you could have. Stop. Yeah, like you could have taken Ida on the ship and traveled all the time like you wanted to, because that's what you did for the first 5 years and there was no issues. But like Jarl's in a weird spot, Elders in a weird spot. Loki, going back to the Ratatoskr, that stuff. I think like this chapter did confuse me though because of the power, the ice thing.
Yeah, so that's the next thing we gotta talk about. That's because and like we've seen him bring down lightning a couple times, right? So we knew that was already a thing, and he did that with Sea Stone on and without Sea Stone on, right? Because he brought down lightning against Harold when he didn't have Sea Stone, but then whenever he hit the Atom Tree earlier in the arc, he still had the Sea Stone chains on. So that tells us that the lightning can happen even when Loki isn't using his fruit, but it can also happen when he is using his fruit because it happened against Harold. So that's like just a weird paradigm, I guess. But now we got ice powers. And that's just like, where did that come from? A couple things I want to point out real quick, because I honestly am not exactly sure what's going on, so I'm very curious on your opinion, but there are a couple important things to point out. So if you guys don't know, Niflheim, the name of the attack, is like the frozen realm in Norse mythology, so that's definitely what that's basing on. I wonder if all of his other attacks are going to be other realms of Norse mythology. This also makes me think back to Kaido's attack, like 3 Worlds Ragnarok or whatever. It's like, okay, so you were also using a Norse attack, and so this is like Kaido and Loki parallels are just building even more. But also, I find it very interesting that Oda had him use the ice power against the Draugr, because the Draugr looks like Brook. and Brook has ice powers as well. And we also know that the underworld is cold. That's part of why the realm of the dead is cold, because he's paralleling it. But the actual underworld where you go whenever you die is also cold, because Brook showed us that, because that's how he has ice powers. Also, Baron V. Nustro, he also has ice powers, and he's like a skeleton horse. So,
yeah, I
don't know. Oda's deeply tied like the dead to the cold, and I think it's very cool that he had that happen against the Draugr here. But
Impel Down,
yeah,
Impel Down had a version. Lowest level was cold, besides the Forgotten level.
Yeah, the lowest known level was ice cold, right? So, so what do you think is going on here? Like, what like is this from Ragnar's powers? Is this Loki's powers? Is it because they're in the realm of the dead, or like what? Like what is going on?
Yeah, the Niflheim thing, funny enough, it was I brought it up on stream a few times because people had brought up Loki's fruit being Nidhogg. And so what I was saying was, if people my viewers remember, I made a Hellbat video, and that entire video was about Niflheim and how it's going to be one of the most important things about Elbaf. And the funny part is I mispronounced it the entire time. I pronounce it like Milfheim, but like with an N.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, and it's because I'm dyslexic, and I wrote my entire script thinking that I read like all my sources right. But then I looked back at my sources. I was like, oh my God, I just misread all of that. And so, but going back to it, what I was saying was, or in general, what that video was doing was kind of taking the Norse mythology and showing how Iceland is kind of generally what it, like the mythology wraps around itself mostly. Like, for example, Jormungandr. Jormungandr has a few different interpretations, but one of the lucky, I don't even know how they would kind of figure this out, but the current that wraps around our world dips around Iceland almost perfectly, and it doesn't make too much sense if you just look at the land masses and whatever in the water, but it's because Iceland has so much fresh water that it ends up creating like a current of its own that influences where that goes. And so I was talking about how like Jormungandr could have been influenced by that, like this long giant current that wraps around and meets itself, right? There's, it could have been the Milky Way, which a lot of Norse stuff looks at the sky and, the environment, but like things like Nidhogg was something in the stanzas were referencing cold winds largely pushing back vegetation. So when it says like Nidhogg is gnawing at the roots, it's because like one of the specific stanzas I remember referencing was saying that the cold winds that were attributed to Nidhogg, it didn't say cold winds, but it said like the breath or something. It was just, it would create brining, freezing on like anything it passed through. And so I was saying, like in the last two streams when this was relevant, I was saying if Loki were Nidhogg, then I think Oda would probably, or I would like it, and I think Oda would make it like frozen, like ice wind stuff. And then people gave me a little bit of pushback. It's like, yeah, but he already did Nidhogg and it was lightning dragon. I was like, I know, it's just that I think that if he did it that way, that's like the dreams that people, like the kids were thinking it is. But when you read the text, like it's a lot of the stuff that Nidhogg is referencing are the ice frozen rivers and the waterfalls and the cold wind that would push back it. And so that's where, like you said, Niflheim is in reference to the cold part of hell, or like the dead part of hell specifically, because there's like 3 parts of the hell stuff. And where it gets confusing is this is very obviously not Loki, because I had said this, but then Loki comes in, let's show your power, Ragnar. And up until this moment, we saw the lightning, and it didn't register, but like the lightning almost doesn't make sense to be from Loki himself, because like you said, one instance he had no sea stone, but then when he has sea stone, he shouldn't be able to bring the lightning down. That doesn't make sense
if
for
it's his devil fruit,
any of the characters.
Yeah,
if it's a devil fruit, right? And so then we're like, okay, so then the ice would have to be if it's Ragnar, and the lightning was not Loki, in the world where he doesn't just have the innate ability to call down lightning that could like rival Anel, like then lightning was Ragnar and the ice is Ragnar. And then that leads me to believe that Ragnar is probably and in the world, because some people were saying, okay, but what if the hammer itself is like Sunstone, and then maybe it's like part of that. I'm like, okay, we don't have enough info for that yet, so I'm not gonna put money there. But the Ratatoskr thing, it could make sense to me to a certain extent, because Ratatoskr is supposed to be climbing the world tree, and a part of that would mean that Ratatoskr travels through all the realms, which means that it can adapt. And I don't know if in a lot of the senses it would look like this, because this is like, at this point, Ragnar isn't just top 5 now. Now he replaces Kizaru, Anel, and Kuzan.
Yeah.
Yeah, like why have them when you just have this squirrel, bro? This squirrel's stronger, better, faster, cooler.
Ragnar has quickly become one of my favorite characters in the whole story, and I know that's like a big. And I shouldn't say character, because like I don't know his personality or what he's been through, but as just an entity that exists, you know, there's very few things that like I was as pumped about as whenever I saw a squirrel pop up, and now, and if he's got ice powers. Bro, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Like,
yeah, and strength aside, power aside. So what's funny is like this character kind of is like, if this is, I like, I'm not saying that this wasn't part of Oda's original idea, but what I'm saying is that like, if it wasn't a part of Oda's idea, you would be the main person who birthed this character, the drill tooth, because that's what Ratatoskr really means, is drill tooth. And you having the Pluton as a mole, and then like they have this, and it's like, it's not an ancient weapon, but it sure
do we know
could
that?
Be.
Do we know that it's not an ancient weapon, Par? Do we know that?
I don't know. It sounds like what you were describing.
Yeah, like, here's my other agenda is I think like some mix of devil fruits is pretty likely. Like maybe it is like Ratatoskr can do the, like you said, the different realms or whatever, and maybe that's it. And it's like it's a mythical squirrel, and we just got to accept that he has weird powers, and like maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Or maybe the hammer itself is special, like it was made with some high tech dials or something, and maybe that's it. Like maybe there are some options, but I feel very strongly that this at a bare minimum, this is some foreshadowing for Uranus, and it might just be proof in front of our eyes that those two working together make up Uranus. And maybe there is a third component, like the Noah, like equivalent. But just, I mean, think about it. Like now we've seen 2 different types of weather be brought, you know, upon like in an attack whenever these two work together. We've seen lightning and now ice. And who knows, maybe we'll see fire eventually. Maybe we'll see a bunch of wind. Maybe we'll see a bunch of rain. I mean, maybe he'll have other abilities. But I feel like this is some Uranus stuff. Like whenever we think about God of the Sky, people have talked about for a long time, and I've always agreed, like it's got to be a weather controlling type thing. But Uranus has been kept in a box, right? Like we heard Uranus one time and have not heard about it since. It's all been speculation. And I don't know, like I said, just him having these Shirahoshi parallels where like she's probably Mosa at this point. They like they're both prince or princesses of important islands. They almost were wedded, you know, each other. They might be the sovereigns that have to meet, or like those who will meet again. There's like, you know, I feel like the stocks are pretty high on a lot of those ideas. And I just think if he's going to parallel Poseidon, he should probably also be an ancient weapon. And if he's having all these different weather powers, you know, it makes sense. I don't know what it is, though. Like, I don't know. Is he Uranus because he has this fruit and because Ragnar has this other fruit and they can work in tandem? Is it because the hammer is really special? Is it because Loki just has special weather powers innately that we don't really understand yet, that work whether he has Sea Stone or not? Because I think we might have talked about this, but throughout the flashback, there was like 4 times where Loki got upset and then it started snowing. I don't know, maybe he just has an innate ability to like warp the weather around him. You know what I mean? And that could just be it.
Yeah, I mean, we do need to figure out. I'm waiting for the eyes. I think the eyes are kind of the weirdest, like locked away secret, considering it was something that was. It's obvious. It's like one of the 4 most important things about him when we were like, why is his eyes bandaged? And then in the flashback, that's literally why he is the way he is, because his mom threw him out because of his eyes. Yeah. And it's like when you give something that level of buildup, and then you don't even I don't think there's been a single time we've hinted at like something related to these eyes other than when he transformed and you just see his glowing eyes through the thing. Like that's the only time we've seen it. And it's like, but like, isn't that like more important for his devil fruit? It's not him, right?
Yeah.
Because like his eyes are him, the devil fruit's separate. Is it just coincidentally that like, you know, because people are saying like the Nidhogg eyes, he has the Nidhogg eyes. So then like, is it like, because then it would feel silly because like, oh yeah, like Luffy looks like Joy Boy, so that's why he like can awaken to the fruits. Like Loki has the eyes, so that's why he can awaken. It's that's like too perfect, right? But with the Ratatoskr thing and on the realm of at least the Ratatoskr part, because I don't think Oda has concretely put Loki there yet, is have you seen Dawn and Dusk? I saw it in passing and then Sire brought it up yesterday. They mentioned how everything related to the squirrel so far, or everything, no, squirrel, chestnuts, and Biblo's fruit. Biblo's like a supposed fruit. They're all innuendos, like sexual innuendos. And so Uranus is also,
okay.
Iku is literally like, should I type it to you? I feel bad saying this on your channel.
I mean, well, you can say it and then I can edit it if needed.
Okay, it means come. Like Iku means come. Yeah, and then squirrel also means, I think it means like dick. Like it's like squirrel and then chestnut.
It says like balls.
Ball and set. Yeah. Like all of it is very obvious. Like if you're Japanese, you would see those puns. And to the point that I came across that separately because I was doing something Nolan related. And I was doing something like figuring out like de-encrypting something. And then I came across it, I was like, yeah, that's not gonna mean anything. And then I didn't even clock the squirrel and then Dawn Dust posted that and Sai brought it up. And then you talking about the Uranus, and I was like, you know, Oda put all these things in a bag, and then we're putting that bag in Uranus. I'm just saying, Oda might be putting all that stuff in Uranus. Like, I don't know.
I mean, that's like that's the type of thing that Oda would do, but like he would never make it like overt, right? Like he would never like acknowledge it, but it would just be, it would be like a little joke for everyone to be like, did he really make all the things tied to Uranus a bunch of like dick jokes? Like, is that really like, are we really, you know, is this some grade school stuff like that? Oda would do that, like it's just as a random gag, you know what I mean?
Hypothetically, let's say the squirrel's name is Uranus, right? And then Luffy hears his fruit power, like all this stuff, and then he's just like, he just starts busting out laughing. And then like Oda doesn't have to make it so in your face. Yeah. But what's funny is that in the SBS, Oda is very open about, he makes dick jokes, everything, to the point that the last SBS,
Jinbei,
he made another pushback against the PTA that keeps on, hey, you're making a kids series. And then he's like, yeah, but the kids are asking me these questions, like, so it'd be so funny if then he puts in the series like, haha, sucks to suck PTA.
Well, didn't he answer a question in like the last SBS or the one before about whether Jinbei's dick is blue or not? I'm pretty sure. That was And the thing about SBS is like, it's not like Oda's in a room and he has to answer the 10 questions he gets or however many.
Chooses.
He picks the questions so you see them. Like he's selective. So like, it's not just that somebody asked him that, it's that somebody asked him that, and Oda's like, oh, this would be funny to let the people know this answer. You know, I think they'd like that. But going back to, you were talking about like Loki's eyes and stuff, and so I want to mention this idea to you. I brought this up a lot in my last video, and I love this idea. So, you know, a lot of the ancient weapons, especially Pluton as a mole, are shaping up to be like creatures waiting for their master to come back, right? Like you think about the Sea Kings waiting for Poseidon to come back, and they're able to like recognize that Poseidon's back whenever they talk. Zunisha's been wandering around for 1,000 years. Nobody even knew that Zunisha was like conscious, which is weird just as a general thing. But then suddenly, like, you know, Zunisha starts calling out and Momo can control it. And it's like, okay, so Zunisha was able to tell who the right person was to control Zunisha. Like they can innately tell. So Ragnar seems to be the same thing. It is a squirrel that's been waiting around a really long time to meet its master again, right? So for one thing, obviously Zunisha ties to Pluton a little bit, and then the Sea Kings obviously are like part of the Poseidon dynamic. So those are ancient weapons. So it would kind of make sense that that Ragnar is also in that boat, right? But you know what that also reminds me of is Brook and Laboon.
What?
Because Laboon is also a creature waiting a very long time for his owner to come back. All these owners also died. Like, Brook got reincarnated, but the others got reincarnated through, like, inherited will, probably. But the reason I bring this up in relation to Loki's eyes is, you know how Brook has kept his afro so that Laboon could tell for sure that it was him? What if Loki's eyes were the thing that told Ragnar, oh, this is definitely the guy? Because in the flashback, we see them hit each other, and Ragnar's really mad, and he has a welt on his head. But then it skips forward to where the welt's gone and he's happy. So what happened in between, right? Like, and he was mad right away. So at least in my mind, if it was as simple as like, oh, you overpowered Ragnar and proved yourself, Ragnar wouldn't even be mad after he got hit. He'd be like, finally, right? Like, he'd be happy like he was a second later. So I'm wondering if Loki then proved himself. Like, I love the idea that he was like, oh, I didn't know you were an animal. I'm so sorry. Like, let me help you. Like, he's really nice. I think that's like almost a given, to be honest. I think that's like guaranteed. But then I also think he could have like taken off his bandages and been like, here, let me wrap these on you instead. And then, because then in that one motion, Ragnar would be like, okay, wait, you're nice and you have the eyes. This is you. You're back. Like, finally, I've been waiting for you. And I feel so strongly about that personally. I feel like maybe it is just a power thing, but I don't know. Like, Ragnar is really strong, but like Loki didn't even like beat Ragnar. He just put a welt on his head, and I just feel like somebody could have done that at some point. Like Harold, if he was going all out. You would think. You would think. Yeah. So I think there's another layer to it than just power, and it's like Loki was like, I'm going to show you kindness. I'm going to show you my eyes, and then Ragnar's like, you're just like the last guy, right? You look just like him, just like Brook has the afro. You have the eyes. I know it's you, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at these boats where it's like that moment is so odd because Harold seemingly made it a power feat. He was like, oh, now I'm strong enough. And it's like, what? What do you mean now you're strong enough? But then when you sit back and think about it, it truthfully does not feel like like when you think about like Galila and all this stuff, he thought those were myths, right? Like, whereas Yarul, not knowing about this, has direct letters, and he's like the other part is Harold's never mentioned Nika, like never on his own, never really mentioned that, which is like wild. 100 years of this guy, and like Elbaf, when we got there, every time it's Nika this, Nika that. I think he wants to be Nika. I think he wants to. Harold, in no formulation of his like character or where he wants to take Elbaf, was Nika ever even mentioned. And it's such an interesting thing because it's like, I don't know what Harold knows or doesn't know, but when I read that chapter, and at the very beginning, I'm like, oh, like. Obviously, we know he has Ragnar afterwards. I'm like thinking like, okay, it can't be a power feat. It's probably something else. Then Harold says that. I'm like, huh? And then like Loki, when he does that hit, I'm like, so is Harold saying that Loki's hit right there is stronger than anything he's ever done? Meaning that like when he clashed with the rocks, like that doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense. I agree.
But then it's like, okay, so then was Loki trying as hard in the first place? I was like, yeah, it has to be. He broke his hammer and it seemed like he was pretty upset. Yeah. And there was Conqueror's Hockey on it. It seemed like actually is one of his strongest hits. And then, like you said, like the squirrel got hit. And then if you take it on the surface, it's just a power feat. Then it's like, yeah, Loki was stronger than Harold. He hit the squirrel hard enough. The squirrel's like, yeah, no, that's it. That's what I need. I needed CTE, and Harold just couldn't give it to me. And so it's like, okay. But then the reaction of the squirrel doesn't make sense because it's like crying a little bit. And then, like you said, it's cheering. And it's like, what happened in between? And I don't know which way I want to take it because it's like on the surface level at this point, yeah, Loki is actually that strong. Like the story is well supporting that notion that Loki was just him always. Yeah. Like another one in this chapter, I think people are saying the leakers said that Loki said, I'm going to fly up, but it got translated as I'm going to jump up. And I was like, what does that mean? Because like, you know, I had a version of what that means for like, is it devil fruit? Like, okay, then we're thinking bird, or I was like, kangaroo? Is he a kangaroo now? Like, what are we talking about? Because I always make a joke that Elbaf is like Australia. And so it's like, oh shit, he's a kangaroo now. Yeah. And so But then what I realized, and people in the chat pointed it out too, and I say I realized it not because in the moment, but when it got it in 1152. I don't know if you remember this, when Loki and Jarl showed up to the castle in the flashback at the beginning. Jarl's coming in on a ship, and Loki's just jumped. He just jumped. That's pre-Ragnar, whatever. He's just shown like jumping in on the thing. And when I read that,
noticed that. You're right. Look, I pulled it up right here. So anybody who's looking at the screen, bottom right here, you can see Loki landing right there. So he did just jump in.
Yeah. And when I was reading that, when 1152 reaction, my ADHD, I'm looking at the silly stuff. I'm like, why is he just flying? Like, is Loki that cool that he just and like when you follow the line, it's not like from the side. No, it's like to the sky. Like,
yeah, it's like a parabola, like over there. Yeah, whoa, dude, that's crazy. Because this is also obviously before he had Ragnar or the fruit, so this just means that he's got hops. That's all. Like Loki's got mad. Loki's got like a 50-inch vertical, like but giant equivalent. You know what I'm saying? Like
my chat is so funny because they're like they try to gaslight me too. They're like, Par, why do you think it's crazy that Loki can jump that far, but it's not crazy for Zoro to jump like 100 meters? I was like, what do you mean 100 meters compared to Zoro? That's a 1/100th difference. We're talking about like Loki's a pixel and the trees like, and he could just, don't worry guys, I'm gonna jump. I'm sorry, that's insane. You know what I mean? Like,
that is crazy, dude. That I can't believe I never noticed that. That I don't know why, but I love that. It's like so random for Oda to make Loki good at jumping. It's like what why? Why even bring that up? Like what? It doesn't tie to the powers or anything. It's just like, yeah, I got hops, like whatever. Whenever they go and meet Emu, you know how Emu was like who could possibly be an Elbaf to do this? Like who is strong enough to beat my, powered up person that I handpicked, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, what do you think? Like, is Emu aware of Loki now? Like, do you think Emu is aware that Loki's the really strong person who did that now? Or does Emu not know? And then whenever, like, Loki jumps up and pops up into Emu's face, Emu's going to be like, oh, are you the one who beat Harold? It's like, so it's like finally, like, Emu figures it out. And then maybe Loki hits him with the hammer. And then Emu even has a comment like, oh, I see how Harold lost. And it's like just hyping up Loki. But I want to see Emu's reaction and be like, oh, you're like, I finally met the one who foiled my plans all those years ago. And then Loki can be like, so you're the one who controlled my dad. And there would be like just a cool little back and forth. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you think Emu knows of Loki now or not? Like, is this going to be a first time thing?
I was actually going to be I forget where I was going to say it at the start. But, just like on the decision making when it comes to like Emu holding back, like now we know why. But that realization makes current Elbaf not make sense, because what it makes Emu look a little dumb, because if you're going to breach that like decree, none of you guys are going to Elbaf because it's too dangerous, right? So then why would you send the 3 holy knights Gunko and Shamrock, originally, and not have their number one priority shouldn't have been anything that they were talking about. It should have been figuring out who killed Harold, because apparently they don't know. And they did find out that it was Loki, but the problem there is that they don't understand the significance of that. But Emu would. And that tells me that Emu didn't tell Gunko or Shamrock that like, yo, someone killed Harold and whoever did it will kill you. Do not confront them.
But then they went right and confronted him right away.
Yeah, and the reality is, and I was telling this side, I was like, guys, like, I get it. Like, they wanted him to become a holy knight and wanted to see if it worked. But the moment he says no, he should have been killed. Like, and the reality is, the only reason why they would leave him alive is if they don't know. That would have to be it. And Emu not telling them is insane, because if there's a threat that doesn't want to join you and that threat killed Harold, then like I'm thinking in this situation, and I'm coping and saying Emu has recoil from the covenant breaking, then in that moment, Shamrock should be, oh my God, you need to die. Eliminate death.
I think where that originates, though, or why they're doing this, is there was also a comment from Gunko. I'm trying to find page so I can pull it up. But there was a comment from Gunko back whenever she was like first attacking the Straw Hats, and she said like whichever side the Giants pick will greatly change the outcome of the war this time. And so it made me think like, okay, so that means that they're really pursuing an alliance with the Giants in some way, because they know that if the Giants aren't on their side, they're in trouble, right? And so I think whenever it comes to Loki, like the reason they were trying to make him be a God's Knight is because the same reason as Harold. Like, we want to make one of the really strong giants, like the strongest one probably, become like on our side, because if we do that, then we're going to have giants on our side, and we need to rule them. Well, let's just keep threatening Elbaf until we force him to agree. You know what I'm saying? Because like we need him in particular.
So the issue with that though is that is this chapter, literally this chapter, 14 years ago, Emu says the lines of, "Listen, guys, Harold was the best opportunity that fate could have had given us, and this failed." And going to the extent of labeling them all of the D. And I don't know what that necessarily means, but it says that it proves that history does not lie. We were always going to be incompatible. To have that realization be 14 years ago makes any endeavor to have Loki or any semblance of what they thought be handed out by the Holy Knights make no sense, because this is Emu's decree 14 years ago. There's no sense in even trying, which, to your point about the Damirie, it almost makes more sense that Emu would have tried to Damirie from the jump, which gets to the other point that Emu showing up on Elbaf is so disrespectful, because Emu goes, the first words, "What's taking so long?" And it's like, you labeled this island an existential threat to your Gorosei, to your Holy Knights, and now you're upset that the three randoms, no offense, but like you ejected Shamrock. Shamrock can't even hold it down on the Holy Land, apparently. So that's why you're upset there. And yet you're upset when you know that this place has some kind of monster that killed your strongest soldier, period. And so I'm like, Emu, pick a lane. This doesn't make sense.
Who took so long? Emu, you've taken 800 years and you still aren't done. Like, what do you haven't even finished Tequila Wolf. Like, what are we, like, y'all, you can't complain about anything time-wise, Emu. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is crazy.
No, straight up.
I feel like there's probably more to it as far as like again, going back to like the downsides of Domi Reversi, I feel like Domi Reversi is like a worst case, like a break glass for them, you know, like an emergency. And I think we're going to learn more about that.
If we were to use the strictest form of Damirie Reversi, which in my opinion, is that the homeland theory, that is the most restrictive one, because if you were to say that it's the emotion stuff, like you got to get them, then you could do that to a lot of people. Just throw Usopp in. Usopp can probably manipulate a lot of Nami, Usopp, put them there. That's a dream team, right? That might be why Oda's pairing them. But if we're to do the strictest one, which is the homeland one, where you literally have to take the person, be where they are born on that island, and that is when you can Damirie Reversi them, then the biggest threat is Loki. Because we know, there's not a shadow of a doubt, he was born here, and we're saying it could be that Oda is setting him up to be so strong, because there's no counter to Damirie Reversi. And like Rox he could not on his own remove the curse or stop it. So in that world, Loki could be our threat, and that'd be insane.
It would be really cool if Loki got Domi Reversi'd, and then like Luffy's big task, and it also shows his difference from Roger, where his task becomes, okay, I'm gonna save him. I'm not gonna resort to just killing them, which technically Rox didn't die from Roger and Garp, but he got killed by Garling right afterward. But kind of the same point, I think. I think Luffy is going to be looking for a way to save him without killing him. You know what I mean? And that's going to be the difference. And he probably will succeed, but it would be a good threat for most of the arc. And then Emu can be like, well, I'm out. Like, I got other stuff to worry about. You deal with Loki. Loki, go ahead and mow down the whole country for me. And then that's like the rest of the arc. One other thing I want to ask you before we get to the Will of D thing, because it's just, I passed it and I just want to get your thoughts. Did you see that Loki's tattoo is a sun?
Yeah. Yep.
Any kind of
definitely
thoughts on
very
that?
Cool.
Yeah, I love it. It reminds me of like the Rising Sun flag kind of design for a sun a little bit. And that makes me think of Wano right away because of the mole helmet and just Japan and all that kind of stuff. But I still think Oda wants us to think wings, but it is there's extra context now with the suns. So do you have any other thoughts on it? Last thing here. You brought it up earlier. Elbaf, where's it? Elbaf is of the D. So I feel like this is hinting that Elbaf has like a deep tie to Joy Boy in the Dclan and all. Like assuming Joy Boy and the Dclan are connected, which I would imagine at this point. So I don't know what this really means beyond that, because like Emu's also bringing this up, after this whole diatribe about, this was a disappointing outcome. We'll never find another cooperative giant. We're just incompatible. So I think this is saying like Elbaf is kind of predestined to be on the opposite side, which goes back to what Gunko was saying with like whichever side the Giants pick will greatly change the outcome. So I think this is Emu kind of telling us like fate or history is telling us that the Giants tend to side with the enemy of the world government, basically. Yeah. So, but what do you think? I don't know. Just what are your thoughts on it? Is there like what could this possibly be hinting at in the past as far as like the Giants kind of role in all this? You know what I mean? Like Emu is obviously really concerned about the Giants thing. So just what do you think?
It is funny because my initial reaction, which I said on stream, it's topical for what we discussed, but my innate reaction was like, is the D just the word like terrorist now? Is Emu unironically just just labeling anyone they want? Because it's just like what would be the ramifications if we take it verbatim? Elbaf is of the D. So does that mean, now the royal family is just like the Nefertari? They're all D? Is that what we're doing? Or are we also just saying that all of the Giants are just Dclan? Like if you take what Emu said on the surface, it makes less sense than Emu just being super pissed and being like, they're them dirty Dclan. Right. Just like
is the D for like domestic terrorist? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what,
that's what I'm saying.
I
was like, as a brown guy, it feels like Emu's just labeling a white lady in a van.
Unfortunately, that's how it feels. Like I need to make this person or these people seem like the worst type of person so that you hate them, so you fight against them with me. So I'm going to call them the worst thing possible, like a domestic terrorist, which in current times that word gets used way more often than it should towards people that just should not be called that. But it feels like Emu's kind of embodying the same thing. Like, let me call you the worst thing possible so that all of my allies want to go kill you. Like, that's how it feels, right? So,
yeah, straight up. It's such an interesting thing because it's not just like when I react, sometimes real world stuff leaks in, but this one feels different because we have the Dclan. Like there was the meme about it. Is everyone when Sabo sad boy, right? Like when Ace and Luffy were like, yeah, you could just have the D, and then they were also like, he's raised by D, he's with the D, his like best friends are D, his brothers are D. So is he just a D or is it just checkered fate? It's like they were on the tip. They were just about to throw out the D for him. And it's like, okay, so when you start doing that, you lose the meaning if it has meaning in the first place, right? Yeah. And it's like the other part of it too is that Emu themselves was confronting the reality that Lily, who they didn't, from what we saw, couldn't determine if Lily was making a mistake or was actually intentionally sabotaging them until they read the name on the letter, which tells you a lot because it's like, so they couldn't figure out if she was on her side or their side or the other side until the D was there, right. Which shows you how biased of a thinking. They went 800 years not knowing who their enemy was until the D letter was there. What does that mean? It means that the label is so frail. It doesn't mean anything for that. And so, especially when we're going back 800 years ago, and Emu also in the same breath is like, oh, you Dclan, you're just husks of the things. So you're also admitting that it doesn't mean anything too. Yeah. So,
but you're still worried about it, like,
right? And we do have instances where they hide the D and whatever, and then the times where they demonize it. But in this moment, it just felt like I read the news this morning. Oh, Elbaf is all the
Go put it in the papers. Go go tell everyone Elbaf is of the D. Time to wipe him out.
Emu sounded a hella orange, bro. That's all I'm saying.
I don't disagree with you, Par. I don't disagree. It does feel and we were talking about this before the stream, but it feels like One Piece and real life are merging in a lot of ways with the culmination of the stories coming at a big time for the world as well. And so, Oda definitely has hit on a lot of important history points that I think we can account for now with what's happening in the world. So it's like, I wouldn't, Oda might be honestly tying to that. I really doubt the D is domestic terrorist, but it's probably the same thing. It's probably the One Piece equivalent. You know what I'm saying? So
tell me you can't see like what Nika or Joy would be like, that sounds hella cool. And I'll make that my middle name.
Oh yeah. That's what'll happen. D. That sounds great. I want to be one of those. It's like, no, that's bad. It's like, I don't care. It sounds cool. Yeah.
Yep. If you're calling me that, then I'm cool. I like me. I can see Joy Boy saying something like that.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people, especially when we got that the Nefertari D Lily revelation, was I think a new kind of context for the Dclan wasn't that it's genetic. Like people were starting to think like, it could just be a group. It could just be if the Straw Hats all had families, they're not related, but like they're all the Dclan, right? And it could be a descendants of a crew or something like that. Or it could be if you are co-signing what they're doing, like if you're the Grand Fleet type of level, or if you're at the Momo side where Momo is signing on with it. Is that what Emu is saying? That like, remember, Elbaf was always on the side of Joy Boy then, or Nika then, which makes sense because then Nika was their legend. So like if Emu was saying they're originally there, that would be like saying like, like Momo is siding with Luffy. So if we went 20 years later, Wano's a Luffy sympathizer or whatever rhetoric we would use. But like, I don't like either choice. I don't want Loki to be Dclan, and I sure as hell don't want all the Giants to just be like more honorarily Dclan than Sabo even is, because like Emu is saying that. So like I don't really get what Emu is saying here, other than I think the lowest like offensive version would just be like the royal family is D, because then it's like, all right, they're all just Dclan, whatever. Like it's sure, I guess. But I kind of want the nuanced real political version of mine to just Emu's just crashing out. Emu's just super pissed and just like, they're all just D-Clan. They're all just dirty. That's what the D stands for. Just dirty.
I feel like that. Honestly, the more we talk about it, it kind of makes sense because it's really like, did it start with Joy Boy because he wanted, or whoever in the past, but did it start with them because they wanted to adopt this initial and pass it on, and because they're actually like a group and all that? Or is it because Emu just called them that because he didn't like them and they're like, yeah, we love it?
I don't know why, but Emu's kind of feeling like Buggy. Like I said, I know like Buggy, like there's a certain video that a lot of people ran with, but in that video, I did not say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say it like that. People ran with it. I didn't stop them, right? But in this one, this Emu actually, this sounds like if Buggy was slighted, he'd be like, he would just make nonsense up. That's what this sound like. If you replaced Buggy in these last recent stuff, it could feel like there's some correlation. Like even nuking Lelucia, the way Buggy used the Buggy Ball on his own thing that he took over just so he could see what it's doing. It feels Emu Buggy coded.
I could see Emu kind of being like Buggy in that way, because like it's just kind of, it's building up his importance in a way. Because like Rox and Emu fought. Rox went all the way up to the flower room. Like Rox is that kind of guy. I could see Emu, or I could see Buggy maybe doing the same thing. People have brought up Buggy sitting on the empty throne and that kind of thing, right? So I could see Buggy ultimately kind of being like an Emu, basically. Like
that would kind of really work out for like what Oda does, where it's like the irony of Luffy being Pirate King is the guy who raised him and his like progenitor is Garp, the hero of the Marines, and he fought against Roger, and it was the reason, like execution, all that stuff. So they're diametrically opposed, and Luffy is his descendant, and he is carrying Roger's flame to the goal. And so if Emu's descendant is somehow Buggy, and Buggy in my version is carrying Rox's will, then it would be the same kind of whole parallel where Rox is diametrically and Davy's diametrically opposed to Emu, but Buggy would be somehow doing that. Again, like, it's one of those things where I said that, like, it was a portion of that thing, but obviously the idea of Buggy being associated to anything great is a shock value to anybody who doesn't like Buggy, doesn't recognize that he'd be important to the story. He's one of Oda's favorite characters, whether you like it or not. And the main thing is, like, the question is how. And honestly, at the way Oda leaves Buggy with, like, the Cross Guild, every single time, it's like sky's the limit with this guy. Like, he could put him anywhere, especially with how we've seen, like, where Harold is, where Loki is. Like, these are characters we just got introduced, and these are characters that are like, you know, like, they're somehow going to not overshadow Buggy. Isn't that crazy? At the end of the day, I don't see how Oda is going to make Buggy less than. Guys, he's going to be probably more important than even Loki, and that pains me to say, given all the things we talked about, because it's defying everything that I'm thinking about, where I'm going to see Loki in the final image of One Piece. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is a guy I met yesterday. You know, I didn't grow up with Loki.
I think
so it's interesting.
Oda, whenever he, you know, first started One Piece, like, he definitely had a plan from, like, the get-go of, like, how it was going to end, who everyone's going to, like, the roles of everybody in the end game. And, like, Buggy is one of those people, like Shanks, like Luffy, like Blackbeard. Obviously, they're all Yonko, but, like, all these main characters, he's had a plan from the very beginning. And so, like, we're going to be stunned by the time we get there. I honestly think Loki is probably also somebody that he had planned from the beginning, because I think, like, Fishman Island, Wano, and Elbaf are, like, so central to the story that I don't think, like, I'm sure there's some elements, probably even a good amount, that he added later, but I think those islands, like, the core points and the core characters of those islands were probably things that he knew from the beginning. So, like, Loki's probably always had a role, but kind of like with what you're saying, Buggy has been built up to have even a bigger role, which is crazy to say because of this the very beginning. Even, like, you look at Marineford, like, the fact he got to be involved and was casting it to the world, like, that just kind of showed how important he was going to be. So I don't know what it'll be by the end. I feel like minimum he's going to broadcast an image of him sitting on the throne saying that he's now the king. And I feel like that might parallel Davy Jones, because remember how it's like, oh, Davy was the king, and Emu's like, no, he wasn't. It's like, well, what if Buggy sits on the throne and then posts a picture like, I'm the king now, and then Emu has to fight like, no, Buggy did not take my spot. It's like the same thing as Davy Jones. Like, no, he was never the king. That was a lie. Like, it's me. Mm-hmm. But people start believing Buggy's the king because that's how propaganda works, and that could be like a cool little thing with just how the Davy Jones thing ties together. Because at this point, Davy might have blue hair, and that might just be what all the blue hair is tying to, because they're all Davy Jones related.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see it, but we'll see. But
maybe Oda makes Blackbeard into a donut.
You like? Are you saying he's gonna die?
Like Ace.
I know. Like he's gonna die? Are you saying
that beautiful? Well, Rox had a tragic death, you know, like father, like son. What if Oda, you know, that's the thing. I don't think anybody expected Rox. Like, everyone knew Rox dies. Oh, actually, no, not everybody. There's still people who are like, Rox is still alive to this day. He's going to show up. He's been hiding. At the end of the day, Ace's death did a lot of the same that Roger did. It just reinvigorated it. So does that play in the same way with Blackbeard? I don't know what that, or Rox and Blackbeard, but it is an interesting thing because, like, a lot of people say that there's similarities. It's like, well, let's look at them. Like, Rox had a very interesting place in the story that I don't think any other author really does like that. This is wild. Yeah. It's a wild thing that he did.
Yeah, it's so cool that, you know, One Piece has these like past eras where, like, I don't want to say like history repeats itself, but like with Nepo Piece, it kind of feels that way. Where, like, you know, like their kids are kind of like reculminating to, you know, be all these great pirates again. But it is cool, like, how there's these past eras where, like, very significant things happen that even if it didn't like save the world or anything, it's still like so significant that, like, I don't know, it takes our attention to the degree it does. You know, Rox feels like a main character at this point, sort of. So just like Loki kind of does, to be honest. But But all right, Par, we've reached the end. I want to thank you very much for talking, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know we talked for a few hours even before this started, so we've been talking all day pretty much. So thank you very much. Anything you'd like to say to everybody before we end it?
No, I mean, I think was I your first like collab last year too? I feel like you messaged me super early in the year. And I was just thinking about that, like, wow, this is a good like tradition to like open up the year talking to you.
Yeah, you might have been.
But yeah,
you might have been.
I'm just glad that you messaged, and I'm always glad to hop on, talk to old friends via the video, old viewers, old, or new. That it's always so crazy because there's so many new people that join the streams. So yeah, shout outs to all the new people, shout outs to all the old people, shout outs to everyone who supports Dax. It's really awesome to see the content and the ideas. 2026 might be, I know 2025 was a dry year for Parvision's videos. Streams, I did every stream. All right, I did every stream. I did like 6 to 8 hours on every stream. But for videos, 2026 is definitely not going to be dry. I can say for certain it's not going to be dry. There's just way too much loaded up. We got to release the floodgates soon. Maybe we caused the void century. Oh yeah, 2025 was the void century. Nothing happened, but it's all build up. Yeah.
Now we're into the third world, right? So it's time for you to start making some videos. We're ready for it. But Par, thank you, man. I appreciate you. And everyone watching, I appreciate you for checking it out as always. I know I've been a little inconsistent over here on this channel lately. Hopefully that'll be changing here in 2026, starting with this stream. This video. It feels like a stream, but it's just a video. So thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we should be back. It won't be Par for the next one. Maybe I'll get Sai or King Recon or somebody, but we'll get Par back soon enough. Trust me. We will get Par back here. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate you, and y'all have a good one. See you guys next time.